Speak smart, learn fast, how to improve accent, improve your English skills, graded reader. Please don't forget to subscribe if you want to improve your English throughout stories. Part 1. Building the foundation of confidence. Speaking English can feel difficult and even scary for many people. Have you ever felt stuck when trying to speak? Have you wondered why speaking in English feels so much harder than understanding it? You are not alone. Many English learners feel nervous and hesitate to speak because they are afraid of making mistakes. However, there is good news. Speaking English with confidence is a skill you can build, and it does not have to take years. With the right techniques, you can start speaking better and feeling more confident right away. The most important thing that separates fluent speakers from beginners is not how many words they know or how perfect their grammar is. It is their confidence. Fluent speakers believe in their ability to communicate even when they do not know every word or rule. They do not stop or freeze when they make mistakes. Instead, they keep going. This confidence makes them sound natural and fluent, even if their English is not perfect. Imagine you are having a conversation in English. The words flow naturally, and you are not thinking about every little grammar rule. You are not stopping to translate words in your head. Instead, you are just speaking and enjoying the conversation. That is the goal. But how do you get to that point? It starts with building confidence, and confidence is not something you are born with. It is something you can learn and grow with practice. Many learners think they need to know thousands of words or master every grammar rule before they can speak confidently. This is not true. Small changes in how you practice can make a huge difference. You do not need to completely change your study routine. Instead, focus on a few simple techniques that will help you speak more confidently and naturally. The first step to building confidence is understanding that making mistakes is okay. In fact, making mistakes is a natural part of learning. Every time you try to speak, even if you make errors, you are improving. Confidence grows when you practice speaking regularly, and the more you speak, the easier it becomes. Think about a baby learning to walk. They fall many times, but they keep trying until they can walk without help. Learning to speak English is similar. It takes time, practice, and the courage to keep going even when you make mistakes. If you do not feel confident yet, do not worry. Confidence is something you build step by step. One way to start is by setting small, realistic goals. For example, set a goal to speak English for 5 minutes every day. You can practice with a friend, a family member, or even by yourself. You do not need to have long conversations at first. Just focus on saying a few sentences. For example, you can describe your day. Today, I went to the park. The weather was sunny, and I felt happy. These small steps will help you feel more comfortable speaking English. Another way to build confidence is to practice speaking in a safe and comfortable environment. This could mean practicing alone in front of a mirror or talking to a supportive friend or teacher. When you practice in a low-pressure setting, you can focus on improving without worrying about being judged. For example, stand in front of a mirror and pretend you are introducing yourself. Say, "Hello, my name is Lara. I like reading books and watching movies. What about you?" Practicing this way helps you get used to hearing yourself speak English and builds your confidence. Confidence also comes from doing, not just thinking. The more you speak, the better you will get, and the more confident you will feel. This is why it is important to start speaking as soon as possible, even if it feels uncomfortable at first. You might feel nervous, but with each practice session, you will notice improvement. Remember, every time you speak, you are getting closer to your goal. One common fear that learners have is the fear of being judged. They worry that other people will laugh at their mistakes or think they are not good at English. However, most people are kind and understanding, especially when they see someone trying to learn a new language. Do not let the fear of judgment stop you from practicing. Instead, focus on your own progress and remind yourself that everyone makes mistakes. Even fluent speakers and native speakers make mistakes sometimes. To boost your confidence, try to think positively about your learning journey. Instead of focusing on what you cannot do yet, celebrate what you can do. For example, if you learn a new word, feel proud of yourself. If you successfully say a sentence in English, give yourself credit for it. Positive thinking helps you stay motivated and enjoy the learning process. It is also helpful to remember that confidence is not about being perfect. It is about making progress. Your goal should not be to speak without any mistakes. Instead, aim to communicate your ideas clearly and naturally. For example, if you want to say, "I like to play soccer," but you forget the word soccer, you can say, "I like to play the game with the ball that you kick." The most important thing is to keep the conversation going and express yourself as best as you can. Here is a small challenge to help you build confidence. Set a goal to practice speaking English every day for 1 week. You can start with just 5 minutes a day. Talk about simple topics like your favorite food, what you did yesterday, or your plans for tomorrow. For example, you can say, "Yesterday I went shopping. I bought some apples and bread. The store was very busy." As you practice, you will notice that speaking becomes easier and more natural. Confidence also grows when you focus on improving one step at a time. Do not try to learn everything at once. Instead, work on one skill at a time. For example, one day you can practice pronunciation by repeating words out loud. The next day, you can practice using new vocabulary in sentences. Breaking the learning process into smaller steps makes it less overwhelming and more manageable. Finally, remember that confidence comes from action, not from waiting. If you wait until you feel ready, you might never start. The key is to take small steps and build your confidence gradually. Speak as much as you can, and do not be afraid to make mistakes. Over time, you will notice that your confidence grows, and speaking English feels less difficult. In conclusion, building the foundation of confidence is the first step to speaking English fluently. Confidence is not something you are born with. It is something you build through practice and positive thinking. Start with small goals, practice in a safe environment, and focus on progress, not perfection. Remember, every mistake is an opportunity to learn, and every small step brings you closer to your goal. With patience and determination, you can speak English confidently and enjoy the journey of learning. Part 2. The power of active listening and shadowing. Learning to speak English fluently is not just about talking. It is also about listening. Listening is one of the most important skills for learning any language. When you listen carefully, you learn how words are pronounced, how sentences are structured, and how ideas are connected. Listening is the foundation of fluency because it helps you understand how the language works. Without good listening skills, it is very difficult to speak well. Active listening is different from just hearing words. When you practice active listening, you focus on what you hear. You do not let the words pass by without paying attention. Instead, you try to understand how the speaker is using the words, what they mean, and how they are connected. Active listening helps you absorb the language and learn how to use it naturally. For example, think about how children learn to speak their first language. They listen to their parents and the people around them. They hear the same words and sentences repeated many times. Over time, they begin to understand what those words mean and how to use them. Active listening works in the same way. It helps you learn the rhythm, tone, and flow of the language. One effective way to practice active listening is by listening to English podcasts, stories, or conversations. Choose something that is not too difficult for you to understand. For example, you can listen to a podcast for beginners or a short story. Pay close attention to how the speaker pronounces the words, how they connect sentences, and how they express their ideas. This will help you learn the natural patterns of English. Another important technique is shadowing. Shadowing is when you listen to a speaker and immediately repeat what they say. It is like being their shadow, following their words closely. Shadowing helps you improve both your listening and speaking skills at the same time. When you shadow, you practice saying the words exactly as the speaker does. This helps you improve your pronunciation, rhythm, and fluency. To practice shadowing, start with short sentences or phrases. For example, choose a sentence like, "I am going to the store," and repeat it after the speaker. Pay attention to their speed, tone, and pronunciation. Try to copy them as closely as possible. At first, it might feel difficult to keep up, but with practice, you will get better. Shadowing helps you get used to speaking without thinking too much about grammar or vocabulary. It builds your confidence and makes speaking feel more natural. Here is how you can use shadowing effectively. 1. Choose the right material. Start with something simple like a short podcast, a story, or even a YouTube video for English learners. Make sure it is not too fast or difficult for you to follow. 2. Listen carefully. Before you start shadowing, listen to the material once to understand the context. Pay attention to how the speaker pronounces words, their tone, and how they structure their sentences. 3. Pause and repeat. Play a short section of the audio, pause it, and repeat what the speaker said. Focus on copying their tone, speed, and pronunciation. Repeat this process several times until you feel comfortable. 4. Practice regularly. Shadowing is most effective when you do it consistently. Practice for a few minutes every day. Over time, you will notice that your pronunciation and fluency improve. One of my students, Sarah, was very shy about speaking English. She felt nervous and worried about making mistakes. I introduced her to shadowing, and it completely changed her learning experience. She started practicing with short podcasts, repeating the sentences after the speaker. At first, it was challenging, but after a few weeks, Sarah noticed a big improvement in her speaking skills. Her sentences flowed more easily, and she felt more confident speaking English. Shadowing gave her the practice she needed to overcome her fear of speaking. Active listening and shadowing also teach you how to understand English without translating in your head. When you first start learning a language, it is normal to think in your native language and translate into English. However, this can slow you down and make speaking feel harder. By practicing active listening and shadowing, you train your brain to think directly in English. This makes it easier to respond quickly in conversations and express your ideas more naturally. Do not worry about being perfect when you practice shadowing. You might miss a word or pronounce something incorrectly, and that is okay. The goal is not perfection but improvement. Each time you practice, you are getting better. The more you shadow, the more comfortable you will feel speaking English. Active listening and shadowing are powerful techniques, but they require patience and consistency. Here are some tips to make the most of these methods. Start small. Do not try to shadow a long podcast or a fast conversation right away. Begin with short, simple sentences and gradually move to longer ones. Use subtitles. When watching a video or listening to a story, use English subtitles to help you follow along. As you get better, try practicing without subtitles. Record yourself. After shadowing, record yourself saying the sentences. Listen to your recording and compare it to the original speaker. This will help you identify areas where you can improve. Be consistent. Practice active listening and shadowing every day, even if it is just for 5 minutes. Regular practice is more effective than practicing for a long time only once in a while. Active listening is not just about understanding words. It is also about understanding meaning. Pay attention to how speakers use their voice to express emotions. For example, notice how their tone changes when they are asking a question, making a statement, or expressing excitement. Understanding these subtle details will help you communicate more effectively and naturally. When you practice shadowing, you are not only improving your speaking skills but also building your confidence. You get used to hearing yourself speak English, which can reduce nervousness over time. Shadowing also helps you learn common expressions and phrases that native speakers use in everyday conversations. In conclusion, active listening and shadowing are essential techniques for improving your English speaking skills. Active listening helps you understand how the language works, while shadowing allows you to practice speaking in a natural and fluent way. Start with simple materials, focus on copying the speaker closely, and practice regularly. Do not worry about mistakes. Instead, focus on making progress. With time and dedication, these techniques will help you become a more confident and fluent English speaker. Part 3. The role of repetition in fluency. Repetition is one of the most powerful tools for learning English. It may sound simple, but repeating words, phrases, and sentences helps your brain learn to use the language naturally. Think about how you learned your first language. As a child, you repeated the same words and phrases many times. Over time, these words became second nature, and you were able to use them without thinking. The same process works when learning English as a second language. When you repeat something, you are training your brain to remember it. This is why repetition is so effective. Each time you repeat a word or phrase, your brain becomes more familiar with it. The more you repeat, the easier it becomes to recall and use the word. Eventually, you will be able to say the word or phrase automatically without having to think about it. This is an important step toward fluency. Repetition is not just about memorizing words. It is also about building confidence. When you practice saying the same sentence several times, you become more comfortable with it. This comfort helps you speak more clearly and naturally. For example, if you practice saying, "I would like a cup of coffee," many times, you will feel confident using this phrase in a real-life situation, such as at a cafe. You will not need to pause or think about it. The words will come naturally. One of the key benefits of repetition is that it helps you focus on fluency rather than perfection. Fluency is about being able to speak smoothly and express your ideas clearly. It is not about speaking without any mistakes. When you repeat sentences, you are practicing how to speak without hesitation. Even if you make small mistakes, repetition helps you get better over time. Each practice session brings you closer to speaking fluently. A great way to practice repetition is by starting with common phrases that you use often. For example, phrases like, "How are you?" "What is your name?" or "Can you help me?" are used in many conversations. Repeating these phrases out loud helps you become comfortable saying them. You can practice these phrases while walking, cooking, or even standing in front of a mirror. The goal is to make these sentences feel natural so that you can use them easily in real conversations. Another effective method is the mirror technique. Stand in front of a mirror and say the same sentence multiple times. For example, say, "I am learning English" 5 times while looking at yourself. Watch how your mouth moves and focus on your pronunciation. The mirror technique helps you build confidence because it feels like you are practicing with someone else. It also allows you to improve your pronunciation by paying attention to how you say the words. You can also combine shadowing with repetition for even better results. Shadowing, as discussed in the previous part, involves listening to a speaker and repeating what they say. After shadowing a sentence or phrase, repeat it several times on your own. For example, if you hear the sentence, "It is a beautiful day," repeat it after the speaker. Then pause the audio and say the sentence 5 more times on your own. This combination of shadowing and repetition helps you internalize the sentence and improves your fluency. Recording yourself is another powerful way to practice repetition. Choose a short passage or sentence from a podcast, story, or book. Read it out loud and record yourself. Then listen to the recording and repeat the sentence several times. Compare your recording to the original speaker to identify areas where you can improve. Recording yourself allows you to track your progress and notice how your pronunciation and fluency improve over time. Let me share an example of how repetition helped one of my students, Paul. Paul knew many English words, but he often hesitated when speaking because he had to think about what to say. I introduced him to the repetition technique. Every day, Paul practiced 5 common phrases, such as, "What time is it?" and "Where's the bus stop?" He repeated each phrase 5 times out loud. At first, he found it boring, but after 1 week, Paul noticed that he could say these phrases easily and without hesitation. Repetition helped Paul build confidence and speak more fluently. Repetition is also useful for learning vocabulary. When you learn a new word, use it in as many sentences as possible. For example, if you learn the word delicious, you can say, "This cake is delicious," "The soup smells delicious," or "The food at the restaurant was delicious." Repeating the word in different sentences helps you understand how to use it correctly and remember it better. The more you use a word, the more natural it feels to include it in your conversations. To make repetition more effective, practice in small, manageable steps. You do not need to repeat long paragraphs or difficult phrases right away. Start with simple sentences like, "I like reading books," or "I am going to the store." Repeat these sentences several times until they feel natural. Then gradually move on to longer and more complex sentences. Small, consistent practice is better than trying to do too much at once. Repetition can sometimes feel boring, but there are ways to make it more interesting. For example, change the context of the sentence each time you practice it. If you are practicing the sentence, "I would like a cup of tea," imagine saying it in different situations. Pretend you are at a cafe, at a friend's house, or in a meeting. Changing the context makes repetition feel more like a real conversation and less like a study exercise. Another way to keep repetition fun is by using flashcards. Write a word or phrase on one side of the card and its meaning or a sentence on the other side. Practice saying the word or sentence out loud several times. Flashcards are portable, so you can practice anywhere, such as on a bus or during a break. They are a great way to review vocabulary and practice repetition in a fun and interactive way. One of the most important things to remember about repetition is that it builds confidence. The more you practice saying something, the more comfortable you become with it. This comfort helps you speak without fear or hesitation. When you feel confident, your words flow more naturally, and your fluency improves. Repetition turns speaking into a habit, and habits make learning easier. In conclusion, repetition is a simple but powerful technique for improving fluency in English. By repeating words, phrases, and sentences, you train your brain to use the language naturally and confidently. Start with common phrases, use the mirror technique, combine shadowing with repetition, and record yourself to track your progress. Make repetition fun by changing the context and using flashcards. Remember, fluency is not about perfection but about speaking smoothly and confidently. With consistent practice, repetition will help you become a more fluent and confident English speaker. Part 4. Making practice fun and breaking through challenges. Learning English should not feel like a boring chore. When you enjoy the process, it becomes easier and more effective. One of the best ways to improve your English skills is to make practice fun and engaging. By turning learning into something you look forward to, you will want to practice more often. This section will explore how to make practicing English enjoyable and provide strategies to overcome common challenges that learners face. A great way to make learning English fun is through role-playing. Role-playing allows you to practice real-life conversations in a safe and creative way. For example, you can pretend to order coffee at a cafe, ask for directions on the street, or have a friendly chat with a neighbor. By acting out these situations, you become more comfortable using English in everyday life. Role-playing is especially helpful because it gives you a chance to practice speaking without the pressure of being in a real situation. To start role-playing, choose a common scenario, such as buying groceries. Write down a few sentences you might use, like, "How much does this cost?" Or, "Can I have a bag, please?" Then, practice saying these sentences out loud. You can do this alone or with a friend who is also learning English. If you are practicing alone, imagine you are talking to a store clerk. If you have a friend to practice with, take turns playing different roles. Role-playing makes speaking practice feel like a fun activity rather than a study session. Another way to make practice fun is to talk about things you love. When you discuss topics that interest you, it is easier to find the right words and stay motivated. Think about your hobbies, favorite sports, or movies you enjoy. For example, if you love cooking, you can describe how to make your favorite dish in English. Say something like, "To make pasta, first boil the water, then add the noodles and cook for 10 minutes. Talking about your passions helps you feel more connected to the language and makes practice more enjoyable. Playing games is another effective way to make learning English fun. There are many games that challenge you to think and speak in English. For example, you can play word games like Scrabble, where you create words from letter tiles, or 20 questions, where one person thinks of an object and the other person asks yes or no questions to guess what it is. These games help you learn new vocabulary and improve your speaking skills while having fun. If you do not have a partner to play with, you can try online games or apps designed for language learners. Another fun method is to use English podcasts and stories for practice. Listening to podcasts or stories improves your listening skills, but you can also use them as a source of speaking practice. After listening to a story, try summarizing it in your own words. For example, if the story is about a boy who finds a treasure, you can say, "The boy went on an adventure and found a treasure chest filled with gold." This activity helps you practice organizing your thoughts and speaking about what you heard. Changing your practice environment can also make learning more exciting. Instead of always sitting at a desk, try practicing in different places. For example, go for a walk and describe what you see in English. Say, "I see a tree. The leaves are green, and the sky is blue." Practicing in a cafe can also be helpful. Pretend you are ordering coffee and say, "I would like a cappuccino, please." Practicing in real-world settings helps you feel more comfortable using English in daily life. Celebrating your progress is another way to stay motivated. Each time you reach a goal, take a moment to recognize your achievement. For example, if you successfully have a conversation in English, give yourself a reward, like a favorite treat or a relaxing activity. Celebrating small successes keeps you motivated and reminds you that you are improving. A famous quote by B.F. Skinner says, "A person who feels appreciated will always do more than what is expected." This applies to yourself as well. When you appreciate your progress, you will want to continue learning. Sometimes, learners feel stuck or face challenges when speaking English. These moments are normal and happen to everyone. The key is to understand how to break through these difficulties. One common challenge is the fear of making mistakes. Many learners are afraid that others will judge them if they say something wrong. However, mistakes are a natural part of learning. Even native speakers make mistakes. Instead of worrying about being perfect, focus on communicating your ideas. If you forget a word, try describing it. For example, if you cannot remember the word refrigerator, you can say, "The machine that keeps food cold." The important thing is to keep talking. Self-talk is a powerful tool for breaking through speaking challenges. When you practice talking to yourself in English, you build confidence and improve your speaking skills. You can do this while doing daily tasks like cooking or cleaning. For example, as you cook, say, "I am cutting vegetables. The carrots are orange and the onions are white." Self-talk helps you practice speaking without the pressure of a conversation partner. Shadowing is another technique that can help you overcome speaking challenges. As mentioned in earlier sections, shadowing involves listening to a speaker and repeating what they say. This technique helps you practice speaking fluently without having to think about what to say. Start with short sentences and gradually work your way up to longer conversations. Shadowing helps you build confidence by giving you the words and phrases you need to express yourself. Practicing challenging situations through role-playing can also help you feel more prepared. For example, if you are nervous about giving a presentation in English, practice it in front of a mirror or with a friend. If you worry about ordering food at a restaurant, act out the situation at home. The more you practice these scenarios, the more confident you will feel when they happen in real life. Staying positive is essential for overcoming challenges. It is easy to feel frustrated when learning a new language, but remember that progress is more important than perfection. Celebrate small wins, like learning a new word or completing a conversation without hesitation. Each step brings you closer to fluency. Practicing in real-life situations is one of the best ways to overcome fear and hesitation. Visit places where you can use English, such as cafes, shops, or tourist areas. Try ordering food, asking for directions, or chatting with someone. The more you use English in real life, the more comfortable you will become. If you do not live in an English-speaking country, you can practice online through language exchange programs. These platforms connect you with people who want to practice speaking English, giving you a chance to improve your skills in a supportive environment. In conclusion, making practice fun and overcoming challenges are essential for learning English effectively. Use techniques like role-playing, talking about your interests, and playing games to make learning enjoyable. Practice self-talk, shadowing, and real-life conversations to build confidence and fluency. Celebrate your progress and stay positive, even when you face difficulties. Remember, every small step you take is a step closer to mastering English. By making learning enjoyable and staying persistent, you can achieve your goals and become a confident English speaker.